A moment ago, we heard from Senator Roger Wicker on the Armed Services Committee in the Senate saying that there's definitely going to be an investigation in this. Now let's go to Senator Tammy Duckworth of Illinois. She also sits on the Senate Armed Services Committee. Senator, thank you very much for joining us today. Is there going to be an investigation into this text chain, this signal conversation about imminent plans to strike Houthi rebels that inadvertently included a journalist?
Absolutely, there needs to be an investigation. The protocol here is very clear. Every single official on that signal chain needs to hand over their mobile devices so that we can investigate and look at and analyze their mobile devices. Pete Hegseth, J.D. Vance, Marco Rubio, all of them. And then we have to do an investigation. That's what would happen at the Department of Defense or the State Department were it any staffer that did this at some other incident. And so they need to follow the protocol. And we here in the Senate, especially on the Senate Armed Services Committee, needs to investigate what happened.
Do you have the authority to do that? And if you do, do you believe that Republicans are going to help you do it?
Well, I hope that they will do it. I'm encouraged that Senator Wicker is saying that there should be a hearing on it. Let's hope that they do it. But if they don't, I wouldn't be surprised because my Republican colleagues have basically rolled over on everything for the Trump administration. And suddenly the things that they were opposed to in previous years, they're okay with. I mean, look at, you played a clip of Mr. Walz earlier talking about this is laundering of classified information from a classified system onto an unclassified system when he was talking about a similar, Hillary having an email server. Well, this is exactly what happened. Pete Hegseth laundered classified information off of a secret system onto an unclassified platform.
Can I ask you a little bit more about Signal? Reporters do use Signal. Government officials sometimes do use Signal. Do they use Signal to communicate about government secrets? How is Signal used by the government? Why do officials have Signal?
Well, it should not be used to transmit secret, right? It's classified information. It's kind of like saying, let's say we're not using someone. Let's say we're using Microsoft Word. You have a classified computer that may have Microsoft Word on it, and you have an unclassified computer that has Microsoft Word in it. But you can't transfer the information from one to the other. And that's the same thing. When you're on a classified system, you can only use a classified communications platform. Signal is not one of those. Signal can be used in an unclassified setting, to communicate, but you should not be putting, like Pete Hegseth did, targeting data, sequencing data about an imminent attack on terrorists. That should never have been put onto an unclassified system. And he knowingly did this. He had to take this off of a classified system and put it into and upload it into the unclassified Signal platform. That is the part that is egregious. That's the part that is a national security failure. And that is what put the lives of our men and women in uniform in danger. Those pilots could have come under attack that night.
President Trump just said or implied that there's no system that's secure. He said the ones that are very secure are very cumbersome and don't work all the time. And they weren't right for this circumstance. He said Signal was right for this circumstance. Are there no systems in our government that are secure?
Yeah, he's not telling the truth. Each one of these cabinet secretaries actually have a secret classified system accessible to them 24/7. In fact, many of them will have one set up in their home so that if something's going to happen at 3 a.m., they can step into like a booth, into a special classified room. We call it a SCIF.
Why do they have that?
And they can have these conversations. They just chose to move this to an unclassified system. That's what happened.
SCIFs? Why do they have SCIFs at home? Why are SCIFs so important?
Because that is a verified classified system that is a closed system that cannot be hacked. So that is basically having a situation room in your home. They don't have a full situation room like in the White House, but they do have a booth-like system set up. They have computers with classified hardened networks that they're operating on. They have access to those 24/7. The Director of National Intelligence has it. The CIA director has it. The Secretary of Defense has it. The Secretary of State has it. It goes with them everywhere they go. They could be in anywhere in the world, and it goes with them so that they can have classified conversations. And so basically, this is why it's so egregious. They have access to this, and yet they chose to move, in Mr. Walz's words, launder classified information off of a classified system that they have access to and moved it over into an unclassified system.
Senator,
and all of them were okay with it.
I know you're running up against a wall here. I want to ask you one more question, and I ask this honestly and earnestly. Do they not care about national security? Why would they be using Signal? I'm sure they know that it's not the most secure way to communicate. Do they care about national security? Or you tell me, what is your sense of things?
Well, this starts out with Pete Hegseth is literally the most unqualified Secretary of Defense in history. And this is further demonstrating his incompetence. And he's literally leaking classified war plans via group chat, right? He's the guy who actually uploaded. He knew this was classified information. He uploaded it. It's a stunning breach of our national security by Pete Hegseth and Trump administration. They've done this before. And frankly, this puts the lives of our servicemen and women in danger. And I have to ask the same question that you just asked. Don't they care? Don't they care about the men and women in uniform who are going to be flying those missions? And by the way, if you were our allies, I would be thinking twice about sharing classified information with the United States for future missions. And that could put our men and women in uniform who are in harm's way right now in danger. Shame on them. All these people need to lose their jobs.
Yeah, we already have allies who are saying that. And, I know Pete Hegseth is not qualified in comparison to even some of the other folks that are on that chain, but some of those other folks do have qualifications. And they never raised their hand and said, why are we talking about this on Signal? I'm thinking about Marco Rubio, who I would assume would know better. Senator Tammy Duckworth, thank you for joining us. I appreciate it.